As storytellers, we believe in applying what we have learned, and today we're going to demonstrate for you. We're going to be writing a scene using an exercise from this book. In this entry, Alison Burnett emphasizes the use of subtext in a scene. We're only going to be taking one of the 3 parts of this exercise to do this video. He says to use a simple dramatic situation. The example he gives is a high school boy walks a female classmate home from school. They linger outside her door for a minute or two. The boy asks her out for Saturday night. She says yes. They part. So instead of having to come up with something on our own, we're going to use that one. We're going to write the scene knowing that the boy has been in love with her since grade school and that she has never given him the time of day, and that he is certain that he will be rejected when he asks her out. And because this is an exercise in subtext, he is not allowed to tell her how he feels. So, with that being said, we need to come up with certain aspects of this that are not given in there. So I have done what I like to do always, is write a card for the scene. So we have, and I've given them names. We've given them names. George is the boy. Helen is the girl. So what's on my card are, I have something on both front and back, but on the card is the scene. George walks Helen home from high school. He asks her out for Saturday night. She says yes. They part. Just exactly what happens in the scene. And then at the bottom I have a little plus to double plus here, because that is the emotional change in the scene. So it starts out on a positive note where he obviously is in love with this girl, and so he wanted to give her, walk her home, and so that's a positive for him. And by the end of the scene, he gets a date for Saturday night. So that is a double positive for him, right? And then on the back, I made sure to write the subtext. So he's been in love with her since grade school, and she's never given him the time of day. Just so that I do not forget that the subtext is that and not something else, and that also I don't get lost in the weeds of what is this scene about. This is always a good thing to have, just a quick snapshot of what your scene is about and the emotional change that's going to happen in there. So naturally, you got to start off with your interior / exterior. Obviously, we're outside, so we're exterior. Sidewalk or city sidewalk. And then we're during the day. So now we have set our scene, and we can give our opening description of what is happening. George, we can start off with that. And we can essentially just say the opening of this. George is walking Helen home from high school. From high school. And that's all we need. I think that it would be great for it to start out a bit embarrassing for him. So perhaps they're talking about their day, maybe they're in a club together. One of the things that I think everybody who speaks can relate to is mispronouncing a word, especially in front of people. So if they're in a science club and maybe he's giving like a little presentation on something, if he just mispronounces a word, then she can kind of call him out for it, and that would help to immediately disarm the audience in saying like, oh, this guy, could be intelligent or might be intelligent because of this science club, but yet at the same time he mispronounces a word. Maybe he just like misspells like atomizer, and maybe he puts the I with like an I, atomizer. Could be funny, I think, if he just says that wrong. And then the idea here would be that he would say, it wasn't that bad. And then she would, she could laugh, and she could respond with, you mispronounced the name of the thing you were talking about. I think this would be good to like show both that I think they've known each other, right? They might not necessarily be friends, but there's a good enough rapport between the two of them that she can kind of poke fun at him and it's not like a negative thing. So yeah, if she pokes fun at him, then maybe he could like nervously chuckle, and probably for screenwriting, I hesitate to say nervously chuckles, but maybe he he chuckles as he like looks around, hoping, you know, for some other topic. Maybe he even tries to change the topic to, oh, there's your place. Yeah. She laughs. Well, no, let's just say he chuckles as he looks ahead to her house. Yep. He just notices that her house is up ahead, and he's kind of trying to both piggyback off of her joke and draw attention to the fact that, you know, we're kind of laughing, we're joking, but also at the same time like change the subject, right? Thank God. Almost. Nightmare. Is nightmare too strong of a word? Nightmare might be too strong of a word. We'll keep it in for now. Almost through this nightmare, then he yeah, almost through with this nightmare, and then it's kind of said tongue-in-cheek as he like chuckles. Do we make a Spanish Inquisition joke here? That's the question. Or do we kind of go back to a bit more serious? Because I'm thinking like it's a bit more rom-com than like straight romantic drama, right? And so if he says something that is like, yeah, because I wanted to talk science, not go through the Spanish Inquisition, it might be fun. Could be fun. Maybe just cut out Spanish, just say go through an Inquisition. Yeah. They probably laugh as they turn onto her walkway? The walkway? Would it be her walkway? Sure, we'll say that. They laugh as they turn onto her walkway and head up to her door. Now, the question here is she the one who kind of lingers? That's the question. I think that if she's the one who kind of lingers, then he could take that as a sign of like she wants to talk a little bit more. Okay, after they head up to her door, like we said, I think Helen should be the one to linger a little bit at the door. And then that could be like the signal that George takes to continue the conversation. Maybe turn it to, maybe not a science fair, but maybe like a movie that is science-based. Oh, an old one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, let's, my producer is telling me Weird Science. I think that's a good one. Maybe like Weird Science is playing at like at an old theater, and I don't want to seem like too on brand of science, but that's fun because it's funny. There's science involved, even though that movie has probably zero science that any true respecting scientist can agree about. But yeah, I think George would take that opportunity. What would he say? What do you think? Like, would it be like a "Hey, what are you doing Saturday?" Or would it be like, "Have you ever seen Weird Science?" Probably "Have you ever seen Weird Science?" I'd say no. It's kind of one of those movies that just kind of gets lost. As far as like 80s movies, like of that type of like high school rom-com goes, it kind of gets lost in the 16 Candles and all the other bigger ones. So probably not. You probably wouldn't have seen it. That would be funny. What if he's like, it's like Ex Machina? And they're like, really? No, I have no idea what it's about. Yeah. Okay, okay. In case you haven't noticed, we're film people. I like science fiction. So it's kind of like Ex Machina. And really, no, I've never seen it. Oh, no, actually, I've never seen it. Right? That's probably what it would be. Oh. Then probably like, why do you ask, right? And then George, I think he once again would do the whole like look around, doing the nervous like, is this it, right? George looks around at the neighborhood. And then probably, I mean, we could use a local one, right? We could use like the Belcourt. He plays a lot of old movies. Yeah, let's use that. It's playing at the Belcourt Saturday. I think Helen then like I'm gonna give him like that thing of like he doesn't ask. He's just kind of like probing like, oh, it's playing at the Belcourt on Saturday. We're gonna go with that. Oh, that's nice. And then probably give me a dot dot dot. That way there's just, the indication to the actor that there's a bit of a pause there. I'm free Saturday. And she can like, they can lock eyes, right? Because if he's like looking around the last bit of screen direction that we gave was that he was kind of like looking around at like the neighborhood, and maybe he says, is playing at the Belcourt, like not as he is avoiding eye contact because he doesn't want that, the person that he's fallen in love with, right? It's really hard to put that kind of a thing out there, and it's easier for him if he's not, having that eye contact. So now we use our screen direction to bring him back as like he's looking around, he's looking over here, and then boom, she says that she's free, and it's like, oh, and then it brings his attention back to her, his full attention, right to her eyes, right? Um, so then I think George's head whips to face her, whips back to face her. So posing it as a question is better than posing it as an offer. So yeah, would you like to go? And then she wants to see how far he will go to ask, right? And I think that's why. So like we do see this baby step of George like puts the idea out there, then he does ask, and then he doubles down on that by giving her, that extra incentive of there's that Italian place you like. Yeah, the Italian place you like is just down the street, and then she can name it. Not Olive Garden, because oh, this guy totally knows. He knew it was Tony's. He's known it was Tony's for, since grade school, right? So I think he says, yeah, Tony's, and then in the screen direction we have, like, he nods as, he looks down, like, kind of being a little bit subservient in this moment. And then, of course, she says yes, right? A little bit more subdued, right? A little bit more pulled back. Instead of being like, I'd love to, it's probably like, yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's just say George drives. Tony makes good food. But first we got to get that screen direction in there. George's face lights up. George, and then for him, probably movie starts at like 7, and then I'll pick you up at 6:30 or something like that. Yeah. She just like starts to go and goes for the door to go inside, sensing that the conversation is essentially over. So she'll just say, "Yeah, see you at 6:30." George, smiling on the porch. And that way we get like a nice little end of like he's still kind of like in shock, right? At the end of that of like, oh, she said yes, and he's just like beaming, right? And then the door closes and he's just like still smiling. And I think you don't have to show him walking away. I think you just cut to your next scene. As we said before, this is an exercise in subtext. So the feelings that he had, he couldn't say in the dialogue. This information informed the scene as we wrote it. So we should feel the love that he has for her as the scene happens beneath the action. He should be taking those actions to as a way of proving and showing that he does love her, instead of saying, hey, I've loved you since 5 years ago, would you like to go on a date with me, right? So as you write your scenes, you can use this exercise to ensure that you aren't blatant with the subtext of the scene. You can have that in mind, which I think, again, the card is great to do to make sure that you don't lose sight of what your subtext is. But this kind of exercise will just help you keep that subtext behind the words as opposed to on the page itself, right? As far as like a blatant way goes. But yeah, use this exercise for yourself. See how it works for you to keep your scenes a little bit more subtle. And as always, keep writing.